With the world's largest bankruptcy in the trucking industry about to happen, or was claimed last week, you know, with Yellow Freight, let's talk about the second biggest trucking bankruptcy ever, which happened 20 years and 11 months before this one, for Consolidated Freightways. Well, it's a total coincidence that as I started doing this story, I looked over and there's a CFI truck, Contract Freighters Incorporated, parked beside me. And they actually have a connection to this story about Consolidated Freightways, but I'll wait till the end here to tell you what that connection is. Well guys, I'm here at Dodge City, Alabama Petro, and it's really an awesome truck stop. Pretty hot day here today. It's now it's just looked it up, the real feel is 87 degrees, and some of you guys may like that weather, but this fat guy does not. Anyway, but it is a beautiful day. But let's talk about Consolidated Freightways. The company was started in 1929 by, it's actually April 1st, 1929, April Fool's Day. It didn't turn out not to be a fool's game for him. He combined 4 companies. Leland James was his name, Portland, Oregon. He combined 4 local companies and formed Consolidated Freightways. And they mainly focused on local business, you know, at first. And they had very stringent length laws. So he actually combined with Freightways Motor Company, which later became Freightliner. He combined with them to create the first cabover truck. And the reason was so they could get more freight on with less length. And of course now you see Freightliners everywhere. They're definitely one of the biggest manufacturer trucks, and he was a big part of starting that. But Consolidated Freightways, by the late 40s, they originally were local. By the late 40s, they were supplying the whole West Coast. And yeah, by the 50s, they were going as far east as Chicago out of there. Now they were started in Portland. They did move later to Vancouver, Washington. I don't know why. I don't actually have a reason for it. But they went public in 1951 with an original offering price of $1.80. And by 1959, they were the largest common carrier in the United States. They had 11,000 employees, and we're claiming, I think it was $170 million a year. And yeah, so pretty big company at one point. But we'll talk about what happened in '61. Things changed a little bit. Man, look at that W900. That's a nice looking truck. Wow. But anyway, we'll go to I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna start a load of laundry, and then we'll talk about what happened in 1961. Well, now I got my laundry done, and I can tell you what happened in the 1960s. I was saying 1961, it was actually 1960. After years of growth and acquisitions, in 1960, the company showed a $2.7 million loss, which sounds like a big amount of money, but when you're talking about a company that made $200 million usually, you know, not that big of a deal. But they did do some restructuring. They sold off some of the smaller companies that they had bought over the years, and by 1961 they were showing $451 million in revenue again. So, you know, in comparison, I mean, Yellow Freight did a lot of buying up companies and, you know, didn't sell them off. They were just taking handouts. So I don't know, maybe that's something. But let's go up to 1981. Cornflake, which, by the way, I know some of you old timers would yell at me if I didn't call them Cornflake. Consolidated Freightways, that's what they were referred to. But they won a lawsuit, and it was called Castle versus CF. And they won it. It was saying that Iowa's length laws violated the Dormant Commerce Clause. The Dormant Commerce Clause is a federal clause that keeps the states from individually interrupting interstate commerce. Pretty interesting. Some of my other videos refer to some other problems that happened over the years that caused that. But whew, getting worn out. This walk back is uphill. One down was downhill. Again, fat guy problems. Anyway, so over the years, Consolidated Freight had started different companies, CWE, CCE, and CEE. So Conway Western Express, Conway Central Express, and Conway Eastern Express. And in 1983, they joined all of them companies together and became Conway overall. And now I'm back at my truck. That's a very dirty truck. I got to get it washed here, but back at the truck, I'm gonna climb up in here and enjoy the air conditioning. We'll finish up this video here, talk about the rest of the cornflakes. All right, now I'm back in the cool, and you can probably hear the air conditioner running in the background. I told you guys how hot it is, so. But yeah, so in 1989, by 1989, CF had some air freight operations, and they ended up purchasing a company called Emery Air Freight, and they merged it with the CF Air Freight into the Emery Air Freight name, which in turn was going to make everything go through Emery. So actually in the early 1990s, CF and Conway were both doing very well, showing profits. Unfortunately, Emery caused them to show a $41 million loss. Wow, so this caused some restructuring again. Apparently this company was at one time pretty good at restructuring. After the restructuring in 1995, Emery was the most profitable company in air freight. It doesn't say what their profit was, but yeah, pretty interesting. Especially when you consider, you know, the FedEx air freight, the UPS, everything like that. I don't know if that was direct competition, but you would have expected them to be bigger. But in 2001, Emery Worldwide was shut down they had to shut down their operations due to poor maintenance. And I get crazy about poor maintenance on trucks out here, and I just can't imagine being shut down due to poor maintenance on your airplanes. And them poor pilots and everybody that flew on them planes. Now here's where I feel that things get interesting. I had said before, you know, in 2001, Emery shut down operations, but I'm going to go back in time a little bit. In 1996, CF separated their two companies into two publicly traded companies. It ended up being CFC and CNF Transportation. CFC was Consolidated Freightways Corporation. CNF was the Conway side of it. One was union, one was not. The cornflakes were union, Conway was non-union. This is what makes me wonder if they saw what was going to happen in the future here. CNF owned Conway, Emery Worldwide, and a company called Menlo Logistics, which I didn't find much out about. I kind of feel like it might be a brokerage, but I don't know. Apparently Menlo was a very profitable, and maybe still is, company. I couldn't find any info about it. But as many people know, ironically, Labor Day, September 3rd, 2002, CFC filed for bankruptcy, the Consolidated Freightways Corporation. And they did this by calling people on the phone and telling them not to come into work. This made me wonder, did they not see this coming? The only things that I can really find out about them is that they had not shown a profit since the third quarter of 2000, which meant that they went a full year, almost a full 2 years in the negative. And the other thing is that their surety bonds holders for their self-insurance, for their workman's comp, I don't know if health insurance was included in that, but they were pulling their bond, which means that they were going to lose their insurances, and they just simply decided to close doors. And on that day got rid of everybody except a few people to help with the liquidation process, kind of like very, very really resembles what we just saw with Yellow Freight. So, but anyway, Conway, because they were a separate company, CNF, they managed to stay in operations, non-union company. And in 4/18/2006, so April 18, 2006, CNF rebranded as Conway, just Conway. And they were in operation until October 30th of 2015 when XPO bought them. Yeah, let's talk about all that for a little bit. So knowing all that, by all rights, you know, Leland James's original company still exists. Through sales, you know, mergers, changes, splits, everything. The company almost is still operating through XPO, if you think about it. And I still can't help but wonder, when they decided to split the two companies, non-union and union, was it because they saw union companies starting to fail? I don't know. I don't know a lot about union companies. I've actually learned a lot more here in recent time with everything going on with Yellow Freight. But it just makes you wonder if they were trying to force out the unions. I've heard this before. Yeah, just don't know. Definitely tell me your thoughts about that. You know, the company was sold, and Conway was, I mean, a powerhouse in the industry for a while, and XPO is without a doubt a powerhouse in the industry, and even more so now without Yellow Freight. Yeah. So I told you I would tell you why the CFI connection, is the truck still over there? Yeah, it is. Why the CFI connection is has a connection to Consolidated Freight. It has nothing to do with the CF thing, Consolidated Freight, or Contract Freighters Incorporated. Started a long time ago under that name. But I'll tell you the connection. Most of you already know it, but I'll tell you it anyway. So I was going to change positions for this, but then I realized in that last segment I had a CFI right behind me the whole time. So I'm just going to tell you guys that I did that on purpose. I purposely parked beside a CFI truck, even though I told you earlier it was totally coincidence. Yeah, but anyway, I figured it made a pretty good backdrop for this segment. This is a quick segment. The relationship between CF and CFI really was nothing. But Conway bought them. I gotta look at my computer here, because it's kind of last minute thing. Conway actually bought CFI in 2007. And they owned them till 2015 when they sold the whole company to XPO. But during that time, it wasn't CFI. It was called Conway Truckload. Most of you will remember that, seeing the Conway Truckload trucks out there. Well, XPO bought them, and I guess right away put them on the market because they only owned them for a very short period. In 2016, they were bought by a Canadian logistics company called TFI International. So TFI International bought them and changed them back to CFI, and they owned them until last year in 2022. Heartland Express actually bought them, which I don't know. I haven't seen much Heartland Express trucks around lately. Maybe look into that or keep an eye out for them. I mean, they've always been a big company, you know, the whole time I've been driving. So, yeah, that's what we got. So, with all the bad stuff going on, you know, with Yellow Freight, and you know, this was Yellow Freight's now the biggest bankruptcy ever, but Consolidated Freightways, the Corn Flakes, they were the biggest bankruptcy up until this Yellow Freight bankruptcy. And the similarities between the two is just amazing. But anyway, guys, I really appreciate this video. Appreciate all you guys watching this video. I'm loving the comments coming in. The video about Montford has so many comments, and just guys with your stories. I am loving the stories. It reminds me of the old days of sitting around the you know, the liar's counter at the truck stop and hearing all the stories. Man, I'm loving it. If anybody has any suggestions, you can put them down in the comments. You can also reach me at finchresources@gmail.com. Put that down here. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook under the Trucking Resources, and working on some other social media. So hey, thanks a lot for watching. If you like this video, like and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.